The air in the temple was thick with dust that had remained undisturbed for millennia. Cade Winters swept his flashlight across hieroglyphs that defied all known linguistic patterns, casting long shadows across the cavernous chamber. Behind him, the rest of the salvage crew from the Horizon Seeker moved with professional efficiency, cataloging potential artifacts. "This place gives me the creeps," said Dominic, the security specialist, his voice echoing unnaturally in the vast space. "Like it's watching us." Captain Morgan Hayes laughed, though it sounded hollow in the ancient air. "That's what you say about every site, Dom." She ran her gloved hand over an etched pillar. "This is the find of a lifetime. Arcturus Mining will pay us enough to retire after this." Cade barely heard them. Something was calling to him, not a sound, but a feeling, a pull that tugged at the edges of his consciousness. He moved deeper into the temple, away from the others, drawn by an instinct he couldn't explain. "Environmental readings are stable," reported Alara, the ship's medical officer and xenobiologist. "But there's an energy signature I can't identify, faint but persistent." The passage Cade followed narrowed, the walls closer, the ceiling lower. The stone beneath his boots had been worn smooth by countless feet, not human feet. His breathing quickened as the passage opened into a smaller chamber bathed in a soft blue glow. In the center stood a pedestal, and upon it, a crystalline artifact pulsed with light that seemed to synchronize with Cade's heartbeat. "Guys," he called into his comm, "I've found something." Movement to his left made him spin, weapon raised. A figure emerged from behind a column, humanoid but distinctly alien, female with opalescent skin that shimmered in the blue light. Her eyes were large, pupilless, and a startling violet. Blood that looked like liquid silver seeped from a wound in her side. "You must not touch," she said, her voice musical despite the obvious pain. "Bound to Queen Ashara will claim you." "Who are you?" Cade lowered his weapon slightly. "Are you hurt? We have medical supplies." "Thalia, last guardian," she gestured weakly at the artifact. "Resonance core seeks compatible. Host, you, strongest resonance I've felt." She staggered forward. "Leave now, before she wakes." The crew burst into the chamber, weapons drawn. Captain Hayes assessed the situation quickly. "Dom, help the alien. Alara, medical scan now." But Cade couldn't tear his eyes from the artifact. The blue light pulsed faster, matching the increasing tempo of his heart. He stepped forward. "Cade, hold position," ordered Hayes. "Unknown alien tech protocol." "Listen to your later," Thalia pleaded, her voice stronger now. "The Queen sleeps within. Millennia we kept her sealed, waiting for one like you." Something about her desperation only made the pull stronger. Cade moved closer to the pedestal, transfixed. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "Winters," barked Hayes, "that's an order." His fingertips were inches from the crystal's surface. The blue light reached out like tendrils, wrapping around his hand. "No," Thalia cried. Cade touched the artifact. Pain exploded behind his eyes, a supernova of agony and ecstasy intertwined. His body arched backward as visions flooded his mind. Vast cities of crystal and light, beings of impossible beauty and terrible power, wars that scorched the stars themselves. And through it all, a presence, ancient, intelligent, overwhelming. A consciousness that had waited eons for this moment for him. Her voice wrapped around his thoughts like silk. "At last, my chosen, I have waited so long." He collapsed to his knees, eyes wide but seeing nothing in the chamber. The crew's shouts sounded distant, underwater. "You are perfect, strong enough to contain me. Together we will reshape the stars." "What's happening to me?" Cade gasped aloud. "I am Ashara, queen of the Lumidari, and you, my beautiful vessel, will be my consort in the coming age." He felt his cells changing, his DNA rewriting itself. Power coursed through him, and with it, desire not his own but hers, ancient and hungry. As the crew rushed to his side, Cade's eyes flashed with an unearthly violet light. His voice, when he spoke, carried an echo that wasn't his own. "She's awake." "Restrain him," Captain Hayes ordered as Cade convulsed on the temple floor. Dom and another crew member, Terk, moved quickly to secure his thrashing limbs. Alara ran her medical scanner over Cade's body, her expression growing more alarmed with each passing second. "His cellular structure is changing. Metabolic rate is off the charts. Whatever that artifact did, it's rewriting him from the inside out." Thalia crawled toward them, silver blood leaving a trail behind her. "The Queen has chosen her vessel. The bond has begun." "What the hell does that mean?" demanded Hayes. "The Lumidari Queens cannot exist in physical form without a host. She will remake him to sustain her consciousness." Thalia's eyes were full of sorrow. "I have failed in my duty as guardian." Cade's back arched suddenly, his eyes flying open. They glowed with that same violet light but flickered between that and his natural hazel. "Get her out," Of my head, he gasped, his voice his own again. We need to get him back to the ship, Alara said urgently. I can't treat him here. As they lifted Cade onto a stretcher, intricate patterns began to appear beneath his skin, luminescent lines tracing his veins in a swirling, alien geometry. His breathing steadied, but his consciousness seemed to drift between worlds. Inside his mind, Ashara's presence expanded, filling every corner with her essence. Do not fear the change, my chosen. You are becoming something glorious. I didn't ask for this, Cade thought back at her. Her laughter rippled through him like liquid starlight. Few are offered the chance to transcend their mortality. You will thank me when you understand what I offer. The crew hurried through the temple passages, Thalia following despite her injury. Outside, the twin sons of Varaxis beat down on the ancient structure that had been hidden for thousands of years until their excavation. Aboard the Horizon Seeker, Alara established a quarantine bay in the medical unit. Cade's temperature spiked to levels that should have killed a human, yet he remained conscious, sometimes speaking in a language no one recognized, except Thalia. He speaks the royal tongue of the Lumidari, she explained, sitting on an examination table where Alara had treated her wound. The queen's memories are flowing into him. Hours passed. Cade's muscles tensed and relaxed in waves as his physical transformation accelerated. His skin took on a subtle opalescence similar to Thalia's, and the violet glow beneath his eyes came and went like a tide. Is there any way to reverse this? Hayes asked, watching through the quarantine glass. Thalia shook her head. The resonance core chose him specifically. Their essences are already intertwining. Inside the quarantine bay, Cade felt himself changing, not just physically but mentally. Ashara's memories became indistinguishable from his own. He remembered ruling an empire that spanned galaxies. He remembered the taste of stellar radiation and the song of planetary alignments. Most disturbingly, he remembered desire, Ashara's need for connection after eons of isolation. Her consciousness wound around his own in an embrace that was both invasion and seduction. We are becoming one, she whispered in his mind. Can you feel it, the weakness of your human form falling away? When Cade finally rose from the medical bed, moving with uncanny grace, the crew watched in stunned silence. He placed a hand against the quarantine glass, looking at his friends with eyes that now held permanent flecks of violet. I'm still me, he said, though his voice carried that strange harmonic quality. But she's here too. Captain Hayes approached the glass. Cade, we're setting course for Arcturus Station. They'll have specialists who can help you. A smile played at Cade's lips that didn't seem entirely his own. I'm not sure I want to be helped, Morgan. His skin had developed a subtle luminescence, and when he flexed his hand, the crew could see that his strength had increased exponentially. The metal rail of the medical bed bore the imprint of his fingers. They fear what they do not understand, Ashara's voice purred in his mind. Show them what we are becoming. Before anyone could react, Cade placed both palms against the quarantine barrier and pushed. The reinforced material, designed to withstand explosive decompression, cracked like glass. 3 days into their journey back to Arcturus Station, Cade sat cross-legged in the cargo hold, the only space large enough to contain him when the changes came in waves. During these episodes, his body would emanate light so intense the crew had to wear protective eyewear. Alara monitored him from behind a makeshift barrier. Your DNA has stabilized at approximately 68% human, 32% something else. The changes seem to have plateaued for now. Cade nodded, feeling the Queen's amusement at such clinical observations of what she considered a sacred transformation. She shows me things, Alara, her world, her people, they were magnificent. The Lumidari were architects of stars, Thalia said, entering the cargo hold. She had recovered remarkably well under Alara's care. They seeded life throughout this galaxy before your kind had even evolved. And what happened to them? Asked Alara. Cade answered before Thalia could. Civil war. Ashara's sister queens turned against each other. Their power was too great, their weapons too devastating. In the final days, Ashara placed her consciousness in the resonance core, hoping to survive until a new era dawned. Thalia's eyes widened. You speak as if you witnessed it. I did, Cade whispered. Through her memories, I stood on worlds as they burned. That night, alone in his quarters, modified to contain his occasional energy discharges, Cade surrendered to the visions that came whenever he closed his eyes. Ashara stood before him in a landscape of pure consciousness, her true form magnificent and terrifying, a being of light and energy shaped vaguely like a woman, but with features that shifted constantly. Around them swirled the memories of an ancient civilization. Why me? Cade asked. Out of all the species in the galaxy, why choose a human? She moved closer, her essence rippling with what he recognized as affection. Your species has something rare, adaptability paired with individual identity. Most species we encountered were either too rigid to accept transformation or too collective to value individual consciousness. And you need both. Yes, she replied, her form wrapping around him in what felt like an embrace. To be reborn, I need a partner who can change yet remain themselves, someone strong enough to contain a queen, yet humble enough to share power. The connection between them deepened. He felt her loneliness, millennia of dormant waiting. She experienced his memories, childhood on Earth's orbital colonies, the freedom of his first spacewalk, the camaraderie of the salvage crew. Their consciousness intertwined in an intimacy beyond physical understanding. For the first time, Cade surrendered fully to the connection, and in that moment of vulnerability they truly merged, his human compassion tempering her ancient power, her cosmic awareness expanding his perception. This is what it means to be my consort, she whispered, not subjugation but synthesis. Cade woke with tears streaming down his face, his body glowing softly in the darkness. The next morning, Captain Hayes found him in the observation deck, staring at the stars with an unsettling intensity. The others are concerned, she said, joining him at the viewport. Thalia says you're progressing faster than any host should. She's worried the Queen will completely overtake you. Cade turned and Hayes fought the urge to step back. The changes were becoming more pronounced. His skin now had a definite luminescence, his eyes more violet than hazel. I've seen her civilization, Morgan, what the Lumidari built, what they could become again. His voice resonated with passion that wasn't entirely his own. Ashara doesn't want to conquer, she wants to rebuild. Using you as what, a breeding stock, a puppet. As a partner, Cade placed his hand on the captain's shoulder, and she felt a strange warmth spread through her body, healing an old injury instantly. I'm starting to understand what we could accomplish together. Hayes removed his hand gently but firmly. That doesn't sound like the Cade Winters I know talking. A flicker of doubt crossed his face. I'm still here, Morgan, but I'm changing. The question is whether that change is evolution or extinction. Later, Thalia sought him out, her expression grave. The Guardian ships have awakened. They will be coming for the Resonance Core and for you. What Guardian ships? When the Queens went to war, each created defenders, autonomous vessels programmed to protect their interests. They've been dormant like Ashara, but the activation of the core will have triggered them. She looked at him intently. You must not let Ashara resurrect her species as they were. The war would begin anew. Inside his mind, Cade felt Ashara's anger flare. She fears what she cannot control. We will not repeat the mistakes of the past. How do I know I can trust you? Cade asked aloud, addressing the Queen within. For the first time, Ashara materialized visibly, a translucent projection of her energy form that only Cade and Thalia could see. Her voice echoed in the room, audible to all. Because I have given myself to you as much as you have to me. We are becoming one entity, Cade Winters. Your compassion is now my compassion. Your love for your kind is now my concern. The crew stared in shock at the manifestation of the alien consciousness that had been changing their friend from within. The proximity alert blared throughout the Horizon Seeker, jolting everyone to attention. On the bridge, Terek's hands flew over the navigation console. 3 vessels just dropped out of FTL, configuration unknown, but they're definitely not human. He looked up, eyes wide. They're fast, Captain, intercepting in 12 minutes. Battle stations, Hayes ordered. Dominic charge weapons, Terek evasive pattern Delta. Cade entered the bridge, moving with that eerie grace that had become his new normal. The patterns beneath his skin pulsed with agitation. They're the Guardians Thalia warned us about, he announced. Autonomous vessels programmed to contain Lumidari queens if they ever lost control. Can you communicate with them? Hayes asked. Cade shook his head. They're not sentient, just programmed, and right now they're programmed to eliminate the host of Queen Ashara. The ship shuddered as the first energy blast struck their shields. Dom reported from the weapons station, shields at 72% from just one hit. We can't take many of those. Thalia rushed onto the bridge. There is a way, the resonance core, if we can return it to the temple and reactivate the containment protocols. No, the voice that emerged from Cade's throat was layered with Ashara's harmonics. I will not be imprisoned again. Hayes stood her ground. Cade, listen to me, we're outgunned. If there's a way to stop this without all of us dying. You still don't understand what's happening here. Cade's eyes blazed violet. I'm not just a vessel anymore. Ashara and I are merging into something new. Another blast rocked the ship. Shields at 45%, Dom reported grimly. I can stop them, Cade said, but I need direct access to space. That's suicide, Alara protested. Not for what I've become. His confidence wasn't bravado, the crew had witnessed his accelerated healing, his growing power. Hayes made her decision. Cargo airlock, I'll give you 5 minutes before we jump to FTL with or without you. In the airlock, Cade prepared for his first exposure to the vacuum of space without protection. As the doors began to open, Alara rushed in with a handheld medical device. This will put you in stasis, she said, moving to inject him. When we reach the station, they can separate you from her influence. Cade caught her wrist with inhuman speed. You think this is against my will, he asked softly, that I'm being controlled. The Cade I know wouldn't choose to become something inhuman. Maybe the Cade you knew couldn't imagine the possibilities I now see. He gently pushed her away. I'm sorry, Alara. When the airlock fully opened, Cade stepped out into the void. Instead of the death that should have come instantly, his body erupted with light. The patterns beneath his skin expanded outward, forming a cocoon of energy around him. He propelled himself toward the Guardian vessels, a comet of consciousness streaking through space. Inside his mind, Ashara's presence surged. Let me take control, she commanded. I know how to destroy them. For the first time, Cade resisted her. No, destruction is what brought your civilization down. There must be another way. Their mental struggle manifested physically as his energy cocoon fluctuated wildly. The Guardian vessels locked weapons on him, charging for a concentrated strike. They will destroy us both, Ashara's panic echoed through their shared consciousness. Then we work together equally, no more queen and vessel, partners or nothing. In that moment of crisis, something unprecedented occurred. Instead of one consciousness dominating the other, they synchronized, neither fully human nor fully Lumidari, but something entirely new. With their unified mind, they reached out to the Guardian vessels, bypassing their weapons systems and connecting directly to their core programming. The Guardians had been created to prevent the resumption of the ancient war, a purpose that could be fulfilled not by destroying Ashara, but by transforming her. The Horizon Seeker's crew watched in awe as Cade, surrounded by pulsing energy, hung suspended between their ship and the alien vessels. The Guardians powered down their weapons, seeming to recognize something in this new entity that satisfied their primary directive. When Cade returned to the airlock, he was changed again, his form still humanoid but now permanently suffused with Lumidari energy. His eyes, now entirely violet, held a wisdom and power that transcended both species. What happened out there? Hayes asked when he stepped onto the bridge. We reached an understanding, Cade replied, his voice perfectly balanced between his original tone and Ashara's harmonic resonance. The Guardians recognized that the queen they were programmed to contain no longer exists as she was. And what exists now? Thalia asked, a mix of wonder and apprehension in her voice. Cade smiled, a genuine expression that was unmistakably his. Something new, something better. The Arcturus Mining Research Station loomed ahead, a massive structure orbiting a gas giant. As the Horizon Seeker docked, tension permeated the ship. The Guardian vessels had followed them, maintaining a respectful distance but clearly unwilling to let their quarry out of sight. Corporate security is going to have questions, Hayes warned as the crew prepared to disembark. And I'm not sure how to explain. You. Cade stood before a mirror in his quarters, examining what he had become. His skin permanently held that subtle luminescence, the intricate patterns now a permanent part of his physiology. When he moved, there was an otherworldly fluidity to his motions. We will face them together, he said, and it was no longer clear whether it was Cade speaking about the crew or Cade and Ashara speaking as one entity. In the weeks since the confrontation with the Guardian vessels, the integration had accelerated. There were no longer moments when one personality dominated the other. They had achieved what the Lumidari would have considered impossible. Perfect synthesis without subjugation. Thalia entered his quarters without knocking, her expression solemn. The Guardians have communicated with me. They wish to know what you intend. Intend? You carry the last consciousness of a queen. With her knowledge and your human adaptability, you could potentially restore the Lumidari. The Guardians need to know if that is your plan. Cade considered the question. Within him, Ashara's memories of her civilization, both its glory and its downfall, merged with his human understanding of growth and change. Not restoration, he finally answered. Evolution, the Lumidari as they were destroyed themselves. Whatever comes next must be different. And what of your humanity? Thalia asked gently. He smiled. That's the keystone of it all. Ashara chose a human because we possess something her kind had lost, the ability to change, to compromise, to find middle paths between extremes. As they prepared to meet with Arcturus mining executives, an alarm sounded throughout the station. The Guardian vessels had moved, positioning themselves in a triangular formation around the station. On the command deck, chaos reigned as station security prepared for what they believed was an imminent attack. Corporate executives demanded explanations, and military vessels were being scrambled from nearby systems. Cade walked calmly through the panic, the crew of the Horizon Seeker following in his wake. When he reached the main viewport overlooking the Guardian vessels, he placed his palm against the transparent material. Energy flowed from his body, connecting with the vessels in a visible stream of light. Through this connection, he transmitted understanding, not just data but experience. The Guardians learned what he had become, what Ashara had become through their union. The station fell silent as every screen displayed the same message, translated from the ancient Lumidari language: the cycle ends. The synthesis is accepted. Slowly, the Guardian vessels began to transform, their weapon systems reconfiguring into something else, technology beyond human understanding. "What's happening?" asked one of the executives who had rushed to the viewport. "They're adapting," Cade explained. "Just as I have. The Guardians were programmed to prevent the return of the Queens as they were beings of immense power but trapped in patterns of dominance and conflict." Alara stepped forward. "But you're something different." "Yes," Cade confirmed. "Neither queen nor human, but a bridge between worlds." The Guardians recognized this as the fulfillment of their true purpose, not endless containment, but evolution toward something better. Later, in a private meeting room, Captain Hayes faced the difficult reality of her situation. Arcturus Mining wants the temple excavated and the technology recovered. They're talking about military escorts, research teams. "That cannot happen," Thalia interrupted firmly. "Some technologies should remain buried." Cade, standing at the viewport and watching the Guardian vessels continue their transformation, turned to face his friends. "There's another option. The resonance core was just one artifact of many. The Lumidari left their knowledge scattered across dozens of worlds, waiting for species worthy of it." "You're proposing an exchange," Hayes realized. "Other artifacts in place of the temple and the core. Artifacts specifically chosen to help humanity advance without the dangers of unrestrained power." Cade's eyes glowed softly. "A guided path rather than a quantum leap." The negotiations lasted days, with Cade serving as the bridge between human ambition and ancient wisdom. In the end, Arcturus Mining agreed to seal the temple permanently in exchange for coordinates to other Lumidari sites containing technologies humans could safely integrate. On the observation deck of the station, Cade said his goodbyes to the crew of the Horizon Seeker. "You're really not coming back with us?" Dom asked, struggling to hide his emotion. "My path lies elsewhere now," Cade replied. "The Guardian vessels have been repurposed as exploration ships. There are other species out there, other potentials for synthesis. What happened between Ashara and me was just the beginning." Hayes embraced him, no longer bothered by the subtle energy that emanated from his skin. "You always wanted to see what was beyond the next star. Guess you're getting your wish." Alara approached last, her scientific curiosity warring with personal feelings. "Will you still be you as time passes?" Cade took her hand, and in that touch he shared a glimpse of what he had become. Not a human possessed or an alien controlling, but a true union where both still existed in harmony. "I will always be Cade," he assured her. "And I will always be more than Cade. That's not a contradiction anymore." As the crew departed, Thalia remained. "I was wrong about you," she admitted. "About what would happen. For thousands of years, my order believed that the queens could only dominate, never cooperate." "People change," Cade said simply. "Even queens, even guardians. That's the gift humanity brings to the equation." From the viewport, they watched as the Guardian vessels, now transformation ships, prepared for departure. Their destination, the edges of known space, where other ancient civilizations had left their legacies waiting. Cade placed his hand against the viewport, his reflection showing what he had become, a bridge between species, between past and future. Within him, Ashara's consciousness hummed in perfect harmony with his own, their shared purpose clear. Together, they would find others like themselves, beings capable of synthesis rather than domination. Together, they would forge connections across the stars that neither species could have achieved alone. "Bound by starlight," he whispered, "but free to chart our own course." The ships vanished into FTL, carrying the first emissary of what would someday be called the synthesis. Neither human nor Lumidari, but something gloriously, hopefully new.